In the middle of New Argo City, a tall tower stood with silver glass walls and humming sky drones circling above. People from many planets lived there: humans, aliens, robots with glowing arms, even talking plants. But no one ever talked to the woman on level 14. Her name was Kelith. She sat quietly on a bench in the rooftop garden, under a glowing tree from her home planet. Every evening, just after the twin suns began to set, she came to that same bench. She never spoke, she never smiled. She only watched the stars as if waiting for something or someone. Rhett Kalin, a young human engineer who also lived in the tower, saw her almost every day. He wasn't very important. He wasn't famous or rich. He fixed old air systems, broken lights, and sometimes small robots. He liked peace and silence after work. That's why he also came to the rooftop garden. Every evening, that's where he saw Kat. At first he thought she was just another quiet neighbor. But the more he watched her, the more he noticed something strange. She never changed her routine. She always sat on the same bench. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. She didn't bring a data screen. She didn't drink or eat. She only looked at the sky, like she was studying it, like she missed something far away. One day, Rhett decided to sit on the bench beside hers. Not too close, just near enough to maybe say hello. But when he looked at her, Kelith didn't look back. She didn't nod or speak. She just sat silently, still. He felt her presence like a quiet hum in the back of his mind. Peaceful, sad. Days passed. Rhett stopped trying to speak. He simply shared the space. He worked on his small projects. Sometimes he brought old Earth music in a tiny speaker. Sometimes he sketched machines in a notebook. And every time Kelith was there, one evening he dropped a small tool by accident. It rolled across the floor toward her bench. Without looking, Kelith reached down and picked it up. Her hand was long and thin, with soft glowing lines running along her fingers. She held out the tool to him without a word. Rhett smiled. "Thanks." She tilted her head, almost like she was learning the word, then she gave a slow, graceful nod. After that day, small things began to happen. One morning, Rhett's apartment. Door opened with a soft beep. His broken lock had been fixed. But no one had come inside. Later that week, the broken fan in the hallway started working again, even though no repair had been reported. He didn't think much of it at first. Maybe a helpful robot. Maybe maintenance. But then he noticed something else. Kelith's eyes always followed him, quietly, softly. She never stared. But she always seemed to know where he was in the garden. Even if he came early or late, she was already there. She started leaving small things near his side of the bench. Once, a silver feather from her homeworld. Another time, a folded piece of paper with a star map drawn by hand. The stars on the map made the shape of a human face. He began to wonder, who was she, really? Kelith was a rare alien species. From a planet that had nearly disappeared during the old galactic war, people said the Verilthi were dreamwalkers. Quiet travelers who used thoughts more than words. They were gentle, but distant. They didn't marry humans, didn't even speak to them unless needed. But Kelith, she seemed different. One night Rhett dreamed something strange. He saw a silver forest. He walked barefoot through glowing grass. In the middle stood Kelith, her back turned, watching a dying star fall across a dark sky. She whispered, but not with her mouth, "You feel like home." Rhett woke up, heart racing. It couldn't be real, could it? The next night, the dream came again, and the next. Every time, he saw more. Memories that weren't his. Cold wind across alien oceans. Childhood lessons under crystal trees. Loneliness. So much loneliness. Stretching across years. And then his face. Smiling. Standing beside her in silence. He was inside her dreams. Shocked. And nervous, Rhett installed a neural filter the next day, just a basic one, to block psychic signals. It worked. The dream stopped. But something else happened, too. When he went back to the garden that evening, Kelith didn't look at him. Not even once. He sat there, confused and unsure. For the first time in weeks, The space between them felt cold, empty. He realized then he missed her. Not just her presence, but her. The quiet way she listened. The way she left tiny, thoughtful gifts. The way her thoughts touched his, soft and gentle, like snow falling on a warm window. She wasn't just some lonely alien. She had been trying to connect, and he had blocked her out as the stars began to appear in the sky. Rhett slowly stood up and walked over to her bench. Kelleth looked at him, calm and unreadable. "I got your dreams," he said, awkward and nervous. She didn't speak, but something in her eyes changed. Just slightly. Go. A quiet spark I didn't know, Rhett continued. But maybe I'd like to understand, if that's okay. Kelleth tilted her head. Slowly, she reached into her robe and placed a tiny crystal on the bench between them. It shimmered with light, like a heartbeat. It was the Veralthi word for yes. Rhett smiled. The city buzzed around them. Sky cars flew by. Across the towers, but on level 14, under the alien tree, something new had begun. After that night on the rooftop garden, something changed between Rhett and Kelleth. She didn't speak with words, but there was a new warmth in the way she looked at him. Her eyes, glowing faintly like soft stars, followed him with more focus. When he arrived at the rooftop, she was already there, waiting. Rhett began to sit closer. Not too close, but enough that their shoulders almost touched. Still, they didn't talk. Not like most people did. But slowly Rhett started to understand her through gestures, small gifts, shared silences. He had never met anyone like her. She was kind without saying anything. Present without needing attention, she made him feel like he mattered. Just by being there, then the messages started. It began one morning when Rhett opened his tablet to check the towers. System logs. He liked keeping an eye on the network that controlled the building's lights, air, and water. He didn't work for the tower's tech department, but as an engineer, he enjoyed fixing small problems. That day, he noticed something strange. A short burst of code had been added to the system overnight, nothing harmful. Hidden between the regular data, it was a pattern of symbols, glowing softly. At first he thought it was a glitch, but then he saw it again the next day. And the next. Every time, it was slightly different. The symbols formed shapes. The shapes looked like flowers, Veralthi data flowers, used in old stories to express feelings without speaking. One day, the message shaped itself into something that looked like a question. He stared at it for a long time. "Do you accept?" It seemed to say. Rhett blinked. "Accept what?" The next message came faster. A soft sequence of sound notes built into the code. They matched the tune he had once played in the garden, the soft melody of an old Earth song. She had remembered it. Rhett's heart beat faster. These weren't just data messages. They were from Kelleth. He didn't know how she was doing it. Maybe she had access to the tower's core system. Maybe she was linking through the alien tech, hidden in her robes. However she did it, one thing was clear. She was reaching out. He decided to send something back that night. After Kelleth left the rooftop, he went to his tablet and carefully added a response inside the tower's maintenance. Log just a small symbol, circle with 2 dots beside it. It was a simple human emoji, a smile. The next morning, he woke up to find a message waiting. 3 small stars, drawn in glowing lines. She had answered. From that moment, the rooftop garden wasn't just a place to sit. It became a silent meeting point. They shared messages. Through hidden data, exchanged sketches, tunes, even sent codes that brought the smell of alien flowers or fresh tea. But something else was happening too. Rhett began to feel dreams again, but different this time. Softer, slower. They weren't her memories. They were ideas. Thoughts. Visions of a small house on a quiet moon, with machines humming and stars shining. A place where he and Kelleth lived together. In the dreams, she wore a glowing veil. He wore a ring of starlight. It felt like a wedding. Rhett sat up in bed, sweating, heart pounding. She wasn't just reaching out. She was planning something. He walked into the rooftop garden later that evening, unsure of what to say. As always, Kelleth was already there. She looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. He sat down. "Kelleth," he whispered, unsure if she could hear him without speaking. "Are you dreaming of me?" She didn't answer aloud, but after a few quiet moments, she reached into her robe and pulled out something small. A crystal pendant, clear as ice, glowing faintly. She placed it on the bench between them. Rhett picked it up carefully as soon as he touched it. Saw a vision Kelleth standing in a garden filled with Veralthy lights, surrounded by friends and family. He stood beside her, wearing the same clothes he wore now. In the vision, they placed their hands on a shared heart-stone. It was a marriage ceremony, Veralthy bonding. Rhett dropped the crystal in shock. "You're proposing?" Kelleth turned her head slightly. She gave him the softest nod he had ever seen. Then she looked up at the sky again, as if she had said all she needed to. Rhett sat there, stunned. Why him? He was just an engineer, a normal human. She was alien, elegant, rare. She could have lived her whole life in silence, untouched. But she had chosen to watch him, chosen to share thoughts, chosen to dream of a life with him. Memory came back, something she had whispered in that first dream. "You feel like home?" Rhett looked at her, heart full of questions. "But why me?" This time, Kelleth turned toward him. Slowly, carefully, she lifted one hand and placed it on her chest. Then she pointed at him and then back to her chest. "You are part of my heart." The meaning was clear, even without words. For a long time, they sat like that, under the stars, side by side. The garden around them buzzed with the quiet hum of city drones. Far above, the stars of 1,000 planets blinked silently. Rhett didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing. Now this wasn't just kindness. It wasn't friendship. It was something deeper. Kelleth, the loneliest alien. Woman in the city had chosen him to be part of it. He smiled softly and whispered, "Maybe. I accept." Rhett couldn't stop thinking about Kelleth's crystal. It still glowed softly on his table. Every time he touched it, a vision returned: the Veralthy garden, the bonding ceremony. And Kelleth's calm eyes, looking at him like he mattered more than all the stars he had never imagined. Something like this, he had fixed machines his whole life. His world was wires and broken panels. Didn't know how to deal with dreams and alien hearts. Yet here he was, part of a proposal. A marriage proposal from the most mysterious woman in the city. No, not a woman, an alien. A Veralthy. And she was serious. The next evening, Rhett returned to the rooftop garden with the crystal in his hand. Kelleth sat quietly, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. As he sat down beside her, she turned slightly, noticing the crystal. "I brought it," he said quietly. "I've been thinking." Kelleth didn't speak. She didn't need to. The way she looked at him was enough. Patient, curious, almost hopeful. "I don't know much about your people," Rhett said, his voice nervous. "But if this is really something you want, maybe I can try to understand." Kelleth gave a slow, graceful nod. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a thin data card, old tech, but still usable. She handed it to Rhett. He placed it in his tablet and opened the file. What he saw took his breath away. Lines of glowing Veralthy code filled the screen, but it wasn't just a file. It was a living design: symbols, changing, spinning, forming images and music. It moved like a river of thoughts. The center was a strange pattern, one that matched the symbol from the dream. He realized what it was. A Veralthy proposal protocol, not just a message. A ceremony built in data. She had created it for him. There were 3 parts to the proposal. The memory exchange: she had already shared dreams and pieces of her mind with him. The symbol bond: he had to return a symbol of acceptance. By his hands, not hers. The joining code: a final signal that would be broadcast through the tower's system, telling her people that a bond had been made. Rhett looked at her in awe. "You built all this for me?" Kelleth gave a small nod, eyes soft. She had done more than just dream. She had prepared everything, but now it was his turn. He stayed up all night working, using parts from old projects. He built something simple, a ring made from polished steel and a tiny glowing core. The core lit up when it touched warmth like the soft light of her skin. He also added a special message inside the ring, a tiny engraving in both Earth Standard and Veralthi script, "We are not alone." The next evening, he returned to the rooftop. Keleth was already there, waiting. This time, her robe shimmered more brightly than usual, like she had dressed for something special. Rhett sat beside her and held out the ring. "I made this," he said, his voice soft. "It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's my answer." Keleth took the ring gently. Her fingers glowed a bit brighter as they touched the core. She turned the ring in her hand, reading the message. When she looked up, there were stars in her eyes. Soft, real stars. Her light spread just a little wider. She was smiling not with her mouth, through her entire being. Then she took out a small device, a thin disc, no larger than a coin. She placed it between them, pressed a button, it began to hum. The joining code had started. Rhett watched as the rooftop lights dimmed slightly. A gentle wave of energy passed through the tower's systems. Not loud, not harmful, just present. He saw symbols flash across nearby buildings, Veralthi symbols, glowing for only a second. It was a signal. A bond had been formed. Keleth closed her eyes. Her thoughts brushed against his, not like before, not like dreams. This time they were clear. Focused, "You accepted me. I will protect you now." Rhett felt warmth spread through him. He wasn't afraid. He felt calm, steady, like standing under a quiet sky with someone who truly understood him. But then, something unexpected happened. His tablet beeped. A message appeared, one he didn't expect. "Warning, unauthorized. Signal detected." He tapped it open and saw lines of code trying to enter the system. Strong, fast, and aggressive. Before he could react, Keleth reached out and placed her hand on the tablet. Her energy flowed into it, and the threat disappeared instantly. Rhett looked at her, shocked. "What was that?" Keleth's expression grew more serious. Her light dimmed slightly. Another message appeared on the screen, this one from Keleth's. "Data channel. We are being watched. My people do not all agree with our bond." Rhett sat back, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Keleth reached out again, her hand brushing his gently. A single word appeared on his screen. Written in Veralthi code: Tetracast. He had heard the word before. In old stories, the Tetracast were a group of Veralthi elders who wanted to keep their race pure. They believed their people should never mix with outsiders, especially not humans. "They'll try to stop us?" Rhett asked quietly. Keleth nodded once slowly. Rhett didn't speak for a while. He looked at the ring he had made. He looked at the woman beside him, the strange, beautiful being who had opened her world to him. He took a deep breath. "Then let them try," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." Aelith looked at him with something deep and glowing in her eyes. And for the first time since they met, she spoke out loud. Only one word. A soft, musical voice. Together, the city lights shone around them. Far below, the tower buzzed with life. But on level 14, under the alien tree, 2 hearts, 1 human, 1 Veralthi beat in quiet unity. After the rooftop bond was completed, something in the city began to shift. It wasn't loud or violent, not yet. But Rhett could feel it in the way systems responded slower. In the way certain security drones hovered too long near Keleth's floor. Strange code pulses began appearing in tower channels. They didn't feel random. They felt like someone was watching. Someone was testing the limits. Keleth said only one word that night: Tetracast. Rhett didn't know much about alien politics. He fixed pipes and wrote simple code, not peace treaties. But he understood one thing clearly now. They didn't want her to be with him. Keleth didn't show fear. In fact, she became calmer, more focused. She moved through the city like a silent shadow, checking her tech, sending coded messages into the sky. She was preparing for what Rhett didn't yet know. One afternoon, while he worked in the maintenance room, he heard a sound behind him. A soft tap. He turned. Keleth stood there, her robe wrapped tight, a silver glow under her eyes. She reached out and placed a new crystal on his desk. Larger this time, more complex. Rhett picked it up, the moment his fingers touched the surface. Images rushed into his mind, Keleth speaking to someone tall and shadowed. Varalthy symbols flashing red. A dark ship arriving at the edge of the city's orbital gate. And worst of all, Rhett's face, shown in a symbol with a mark through it. The meaning was clear. The tetracaste was coming. He placed the crystal down slowly. They know who I am. Keleth gave a small nod. She walked to the corner of the room and activated a small device. A blue dome appeared around them, soundproof, hidden from watchers. Finally, gasped. She spoke again, still slow, careful, but stronger than before. They have sent a watcher. A seer. Rhett frowned. What's a seer? What? Looked at him, her eyes dimming. They see truth. In end bonds they do not approve. He swallowed hard. A seer. Someone from her people sent to break them apart. Keleth showed him a map. The seer ship would arrive in 3 days. It would not attack the city. It would do something worse, use high mind frequencies to test the bond. If the bond failed under pressure, it would be declared false. The seer would take Keleth away. Rhett couldn't allow that. I won't let them break us, he said. We'll prove our bond is real. Keleth placed her hand gently on his shoulder. They will test. ... with fear. With confusion. Dreams. Twisted. Thoughts turned. Rhett took a deep breath. Then we fight dreams with truth. That night, they began preparing. Rhett used old signal towers on the city's edge to strengthen their shared data field. He rerouted power from unused floors to build a quiet shield around the rooftop garden, the place where their bond had started. Keleth brought out ancient tools. Varalthy mind tuners and memory locks. She placed one in Rhett's hand. This ... will protect your mind, she said. But only if you trust. He nodded. I trust you. She placed it gently on his forehead. It hummed and faded into his skin. For a moment, he saw lights, memories, her world crystal skies, oceans of glass, quiet libraries of thought, and then silence. They waited. 3 days passed, and then it began. The first sign was the air. The city grew still. Drones stopped moving. Screens flickered. Even the wind above the rooftop garden paused. Then came the pulse. Rhett felt it deep in his chest. A strange vibration. It's like a second heartbeat that didn't belong to him. He grabbed the railing. They're here. Keleth stood at the edge of the garden, her robe open like wings. Her glow was brighter now, a soft silver shield surrounding her from above. A faint shape appeared in the sky, a long, sharp ship, like a blade of light. It didn't land, just hovered, and then dreams began. At first, Rhett didn't realize it. He was in his childhood home. His father stood at the window, back turned. Rhett walked toward him, heart full of questions. Dad? He asked. The figure turned. It wasn't his father. It was a faceless shape, its eyes glowing red, voice echoing. She does not belong to your kind. Rhett staggered back. The room melted. He was in the tower now, but it was burning. Elliot stood across the fire, reaching. For him, you will only bring danger, her voice whispered. Rhett clutched his head. No. ... This isn't real. He remembered the mind tuner. He reached deep inside, found the glow she had placed in him. It pulsed, once clear and warm. Suddenly, the dream cracked. Light poured through the edges, and he heard her. His voice, Keleth's true voice. Rhett, come back. He opened his eyes. He was still on the rooftop. Keleth was kneeling beside him, holding his hands. You returned, she whispered. Rhett coughed. They're strong, but they don't know us. She helped him up. The sky shimmered above. The seer's final test began. The rooftop lights blinked, and a glowing figure appeared a projection. It spoke in perfect common. You may speak now. Is this bond true? Rhett looked at Keleth. She looked at him. He stepped forward and spoke clearly. It is true, She is part of me now, and I am part of her. I didn't understand it at first, but I do now. He pointed to the sky. You test with fear. But fear doesn't break truth. We didn't fall in love overnight. We grew together, quietly, patiently. That matters. Kelleth stepped beside him, eyes glowing. She placed the ring he had made on. Her finger, the rooftop garden filled with light, and the seer paused. Then, was there a long moment? The projection dimmed. A message appeared in the sky. Bond verified. No interference required. The seer's ship faded from view. The pressure lifted, and Rhett finally breathed again. Kelleth looked at him. He smiled. We won, she said softly. We, are free. And in the heart of the city, under a quiet sky, they stood together to different beings, bonded not by race or rule, but by something far stronger, choice. After the seer left, the city slowly returned to normal. Drones began flying again. Lights returned to their normal brightness. People went about their lives, unaware that a quiet battle had just taken place above their heads. Rhett and Kelleth had passed the test. Their bond had been verified. But the quiet didn't last long. 3 days later, a new signal came. Through the old satellite tower at the edge of the city. Unlike the seer's message, this one was gentle and full of curiosity. It came from the Council of Stars, a peaceful part of the Veralthi people who believed in unity with other races. They had been watching, and now they wanted to speak. Kelleth met Rhett on the rooftop garden. The leaves of the alien tree shimmered with soft blue light. She held out a small orb, like a glowing marble, and placed it in his hand. The orb floated slightly above his palm and projected a soft image in the air. A tall, Veralthied woman, wearing a flowing robe made of starlight, appeared. Her voice was calm and beautiful. We are the Council of Stars. We have seen the bond between the human Rhett Rains and the Veralthi Kelleth. Such a bond has not existed in over 2,000 cycles. We invite you both to the Sky Embassy. For a formal meeting and celebration? Rhett blinked. You want to meet us? Kelleth nodded. Her expression was hard to read, but her fingers glowed with quiet excitement. This was not just a message. It was a door, and to show the universe that their connection was more than a quiet rooftop love story. It was a symbol. That night, Rhett couldn't sleep. He thought about what it would mean to go to the Sky Embassy, a place above Earth's orbit, built by Veralthi engineers, where alien visitors gathered for peace talks and trade. Few humans had ever been invited, none like him. He looked out the window. Kelleth stood at the tower's edge, her silver light glowing faintly in the dark. He joined her. You sure about this? He asked softly. She turned to him, her eyes full of calm. You will not be alone. He smiled. Good, because I'm not leaving without you. The next day they boarded a transport ship. It rose quietly from the city's launch pad and left Earth's atmosphere in minutes. Rhett had never been in space before. Everything felt strange, weightless, endless, beautiful. Stars stretched out in every direction, like tiny fires. And Earth spun slowly below. Kelleth sat beside him, her presence steady and comforting. Then the ship approached the Sky Embassy. It floated like a silver ring in the blackness of space. Lights moved along its surface. Dozens of small ships orbited nearby, all different shapes and sizes. Inside, the embassy was quiet and clean. Soft lights lined the halls. There were no guards, no weapons, only peace. A Veralthi guide met them at the docking bay, tall, gentle, with dark markings along her arms that shimmered like water. She bowed respectfully to Kelleth, then to Rhett. Your bond has reached many ears, she said softly. Please, follow me. They were taken to a circular chamber. In the center stood 5 Veralthi elders, each glowing slightly in a different hue. Blue, green, gold, silver, and soft red. One elder stepped forward. She was the same one from the orb message. We greet you both. Kelleth, daughter of Windlight. Rhett, son of Earth. Rhett cleared his throat. Thank you for inviting us. The elder nodded. You passed the test of the seer. But more than that, you passed the test of choice. Bonds cannot be forced. They must grow. She looked at Keleth. You have chosen this human freely, against the will of the Tetracaste, against the silence of your own people. Keleth nodded. I chose him with my whole being.
Then the
Elder looked at Rhett. And you stood by her. Even when you were afraid, even when you didn't understand. I still don't understand everything, Rhett said honestly. But I trust her. I care about her. That's enough for me. The room was silent for a moment. Then the gold-colored elder spoke. We offer you both a choice. A bond like this should not remain hidden. We will announce it to the Interworld Council. You will become our first Earth-Varelthi pair, recognized by the stars. Rhett blinked. You mean like ambassadors? Yes, the elder said. If you accept, your bond will be a bridge between our worlds. Keleth reached out and took Rhett's hand. Her touch was steady. Warm. We accept, she said quietly. Rhett squeezed her hand. Yeah, we accept. The elders all nodded. Soft hum filled the room. Suddenly, glowing vines appeared in the air, swirling around them gently. Symbols formed, the ancient symbols of union and peace. Then a soft song began. It wasn't a song with words, but a sound of harmony, like wind and stars in distant memory. The Varelthi did not clap. They simply bowed their heads. The ceremony was complete. Back on the ship, as they prepared to return to Earth, Rhett looked out the window. The stars looked different now, not just distant fires, but watchers, witnesses. Friends he turned to. Keleth, did you ever think this would happen? She gave him a soft look. I only knew you were kind. That was enough, he asked. She nodded. Always. As the ship gently turned toward Earth, Rhett leaned back in his seat. For the first time in his life, he felt something deep and clear. He was exactly where he was meant to be. With her, and the stars were just the beginning, the return to Earth. Should have felt peaceful. After all, Rhett and Keleth had been welcomed by the Sky Embassy. Their bond had been officially recognized. Stars had offered them a new life. But sometimes light brings shadows, and shadows were already waiting. For them, as their transport ship entered Earth's orbit, Rhett noticed something strange on the display screen. A message blinked in red. Restricted airspace. Docking denied. Rhett frowned. That's odd. We were cleared before launch. Keleth's eyes narrowed. She touched the controls and tried a new frequency. No reply. Only silence. Then the ship suddenly shook. A warning alarm rang through the cabin. Something's jamming us, Rhett said. Keleth moved quickly. Her hands flew over the controls. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were focused. We must land now, somewhere safe. Rhett nodded. Manual override. Keleth tapped a code. The ship angled sharply downward, heading for an old launch site. Outside the city, the landing was rough but safe. As they stepped out into the dry grass and dust, Rhett looked around. The air was quiet. As quiet then he saw them. Figures in black suits, standing at a distance, half hidden by trees. Their helmets had no marks, no flags, only red visors. Rhett felt his stomach twist. Who are they? His voice was. Soft but firm. Tetracaste operatives. Not official, not peaceful. Rhett took a slow breath. So, ... Not here to shake hands. No. They wish to end what we have begun. Suddenly, the figures moved. Silent. Fast. Rhett grabbed Keleth's hand. They ran toward the edge of a broken fence nearby. Laser pulses hit the ground behind them, burning small craters into the earth. They didn't speak. They just ran. Behind, an old storage building. Keleth placed her hand on the wall. A hidden panel opened. Inside was a small cube, silver with a glowing core. She handed it to Rhett. What is it? He asked. Our only hope. A memory key. Rhett held it carefully. It was warm. Live almost. Keleth explained quickly, this holds proof. Records of our bond, the seer's approval, and the embassy's agreement. If they destroy us, they must not destroy this. Rhett nodded. So we send it out? She nodded. To the embassy. to the council. Let them know what is happening. He turned the cube over and found the small activation switch. Just then, another blast hit nearby. The ground shook. Rhett pressed the switch. The cube floated into the air, shimmered, and zipped into the sky, vanishing like a comet. Now it was time to survive. Kelleth reached into her cloak and pulled out a circular device. She tapped it, and a thin shield of blue light wrapped around them. The enemies appeared moments later, 6 of them. One stepped forward. He removed his helmet. He was not Veralthy. He was human, his eyes sharp, his expression cold. "You're making a mistake," he said to Red. Rhett stood tall. "Loving someone isn't a mistake. She's not human," the man said. "And I'm not afraid," Red answered. The man sneered. "You think peace is that easy? The Tetra case doesn't forgive. And humans don't forget." Kelleth stepped forward. Her voice was clear. "You fear change? But change has already come."
Act.
The man raised his hand. "Then this is your last warning." Before Rhett could reply, Kelleth tapped the shield device again. A bright flash filled the air. The world bent slightly, like glass under pressure. When the light faded, Rhett and Kelleth were gone. They had teleported just a few blocks away, back into the edges of the city. They hid inside an old maintenance tunnel, deep underground. Pipes lined the walls. The hum of the city could be heard above. Rhett leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "We're not safe yet." Kelleth placed her hand on the floor. Her eyes closed. "Help is coming. How do you know?" Rhett asked. "Because the cube reached them. I felt it connect." Rhett smiled a little. "It thinks faster than any ship I've seen." Kelleth nodded. "It is made from a starseed, a gift from long ago." A few minutes later, soft sound echoed down the tunnel. A silver drone floated toward them, marked with the council's symbol. It projected a message: "Hold your position. Reinforcements arriving. Do not surrender." Kelleth looked at Rhett. "We must hold this place. If we vanish now, truth will vanish too." Rhett pulled out a small tool and connected it to a nearby panel. Lights flickered. He smiled. "Let's give them a little surprise." Together, they prepared. Kelleth used her tech to create a temporary shield at the tunnel entrance. Rhett reprogrammed the lights to blind intruders. He even set up a small signal, jammer slowing enemy communication. They didn't have weapons, but they had each other, and that was enough. The enemy returned just before nightfall, but this time, things were different. As the black-suited figures entered the tunnel, a new sound filled the air. A deep, soft hum like a wind made of light. Ships appeared above the city, Veralthy vessels sent by the council. From them came peacekeepers, glowing, calm, and armed not with lasers but truth. The enemy operatives didn't fight. They couldn't, because the council was watching now. Everything they did would be known. Slowly, the attackers retreated. Rhett and Kelleth stepped out from the tunnel, hand in hand. The city was quiet again, but not silent. For the first time, humans looked up and saw Veralthy ships, not as threats, but as guests. That night, a news report. AIRED across the planet. First, Earth-Veralthy Union faces attack. Council responds with protection and warning. Peace must be protected by action. Rhett watched the screen, turned to Kelleth. "Think the world's ready for us now?" She smiled. "They are learning." And in the calm after the storm, under the lights of a new night, they stood together, not just survivors, but symbols. The day of the wedding arrived quietly. It's almost like a soft whisper in the busy city. Rhett stood on the rooftop garden, the place where everything had begun. The alien tree's leaves shimmered gently in the early morning light. It felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Waiting. Kelleth was not there yet. Instead, Rhett held the small ring he had made, a delicate band of silver and a single crystal, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. It was a symbol of their bond, forged in secret and tested by stars and shadow. He thought about how far they had come, from loneliness to love, from fear to courage, from two worlds divided to one. Suddenly, the air shifted. A soft hum filled the sky. Rhett looked up. The Sky Embassy ship descended slowly, glowing like a pearl in the morning sun. Keleth stepped out onto the rooftop, her silver robe flowing like liquid light. Her eyes shone with quiet joy. She smiled at Rhett. "You waited?" "I always will," he replied. The ceremony was small, but full of meaning. Members of the Council of Stars had come from orbit, floating gently down to join the gathering. A few trusted humans who had supported them arrived too. The air was filled with the soft music of the Furlthi, a song without words, but full of feeling. It was a melody of hope and unity. The eldest of the council spoke first. "Today we witness not only the union of two hearts, but the joining of two worlds. A bond that will show others that peace is possible, even in the darkest times." Keleth took Rhett's hands in hers. "I chose this man," she said softly, "not because of where he comes from, but because of who he is. Strong, kind, brave." Rhett's voice was steady. "I love Keleth with all that I am. She is my guide, my partner, my home." The eldest smiled and raised her hands. "By the light of the stars and the strength of the bond, I declare you united." Soft glows surrounded them. The city below seemed to pause, as if even the buildings wanted to witness this moment. After the ceremony, the celebration began. People from both worlds shared food, stories, and laughter. Rhett tasted alien fruits that glowed in the dark. Keleth laughed at human jokes she once did not understand. Together, they danced under the stars, the alien and the human. The two who had found each other in a city full of millions. As the night deepened, Rhett and Keleth slipped away. From the crowd to the edge of the rooftop, they looked up at the sky. The stars twinkled brightly, as if sending their own congratulations. Keleth took Rhett's hand. "This is just the beginning." Rhett nodded. "Together, we can face anything." The city below was no longer lonely. It was full of light, full of hope, full of love, and above. The stars watched, silent witnesses to a bond that had changed everything. End of story.